Welcome, welcome.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
Somehow I cut my nose.
And we feel betrayed. We were raised to
Anybody been keeping up with the Karen Reed case? Hold on just a second. I'll kill the music. I'm typing something out. All right. Here we go.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks
I guess
for
everybody's
watching.
still getting here.
Peace out.
Welcome, everybody. I am Will Bird, and this is the Cold Beer Confessional. Everybody's late getting here. Where you guys been? Damn. Slow to the draw. Did I trick you by starting 2 minutes early? Everybody's getting there. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I'm Will Bird. This is the Cold Beer Confessional. Appreciate you joining us, even if you are late, okay? Sorry, I was reading a message. We got crazy wind today. Insane fucking wind. Like there was just crazy gusts and no storms. The storm was the night before last. And it rained a little bit. Well, last night, I can't remember, but we just got sunny and windy. It was crazy windy today. Branches down all over the place. So it's still windy right now. If we lose power, there's not much I can do. But there you go. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. If the show cuts off, it's out of my hands. That's all I got. We got a couple things to talk about today. Different things going back and forth. People to talk about. I do want to read this. This caught my eye while we're talking about immigration. Let me grab this picture first. So I don't know if you'll get more people to care about immigration because this guy's white or not. But this is a horrible story, so check this out. This guy's name is Casper Erickson. Casper Erickson. This father went to his citizenship hearing expecting a handshake. Instead, I shackled him, threw him in a van, and tore him away from his pregnant wife and 4 children without even letting him say goodbye. Casper Erickson arrived in Mississippi from Denmark in 2013, fully documented and determined to become a citizen and build a life here. He started a family. He became part of his community and followed every rule. He was never accused, let alone convicted of any crime. But, as best we understand, he's now imprisoned because of a single clerical mistake made years ago. In 2015, Casper and his wife, Savannah, missed filing one form among the hundreds required on the complicated path to citizenship. Savannah had just suffered a stillbirth, losing their first child. In the painful days that followed, paperwork deadlines understandably slipped past unnoticed. Now, over a month after his arrest, Casper remains locked in a detention facility, notorious for cruelty, neglect, and abuse. Savannah, who is currently 8 months pregnant, at high risk, and terrified, is desperately pleading for her husband's return. She and their children have no idea when or if they'll ever see him again, and she doesn't know if he'll be present for her child's birth. Every day brings another nightmare under the Trump administration. The actions of our government are evil. There's simply no other way to describe it. May God have mercy on us for allowing this to happen. Now, I thought this was so unusual. Like, this is crazy, right? There's got to be more to this, right? Nope. I googled it. There's tons of sources. The Danish dad of 4 detained at his interview to become a U.S. He was going to his final interview to become a citizen. has spent the last month in an ICE facility infamous for reports of cockroach-filled kitchens and abuse by its guards. Casper Yule Erickson, 32, was arrested in Memphis, Tennessee last month because he missed a paperwork deadline a decade ago. Over 10 years ago, he missed one paperwork deadline. And this was his meeting to get a handshake and a piece of paper that said that he was a fucking citizen. His wife was left to drive 3 hours back to their Mississippi home alone while he was taken to the Central Louisiana ICE Processing Center in Jenna. They went together to celebrate. Louisiana, about 140 miles northwest of Baton Rouge. An immigration attorney told the Daily Beast on Thursday that the rural facility is infamous even by ICE standards, with its location making it ideal for holding migrants whom the agency wants to keep visitors from. Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil, who has been detained since March for organizing demonstrations regarding the Israel-Hamas war, is also being held there. It is the Baton Rouge, 140 miles northwest of Baton Rouge. It's in Jenna, Louisiana. Known as Clip C for short, it is a for-profit that the GEO Group operates. It was a juvenile correctional center in the 1990s, but was shut down after its reports of children being beaten, tear gassed, and pepper sprayed emerged. GEO reopened the facility in 2008 to jail migrants on behalf of ICE. Complaints of abuse and inhuman conditions followed, according to Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Report published in August of last year. That report featured allegations by a detainee named Alex, who filed multiple grievances related to forced labor practices, medical neglect, and contamination of the food they were served. A woman at Clipsey working in the kitchen discovered rat feces covering the food bags and bread in the kitchen, the report said. Officials forced her to serve the food after brushing aside the excrement. Whistleblowers also claim the facility ranks detainees by risk level, with those deemed less risky in yellow and most risky in red. Those colors reportedly change in a snap. However, one detainee alleged they were bumped from orange to the dreaded red jumpsuit after a verbal disagreement with an officer over library access to law library access. It is unknown what Erickson's risk level is considered, but he has no criminal record. He's never even been accused of a crime. Conditions have been described as uncomfortable to downright deadly. In 2016, 3 migrants in custody died before July 1st. The Department of Homeland Security's Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties investigated and determined that an improper medical response was a contributor to the deaths. The following year, the detention center ranked in the top 5 U.S. immigration jails for the number of sexual assault complaints received. The Kennedy nonprofit said these issues are compounded by staffing issues, as there's just one guard for every 230 people. Even basic liberties are often denied. Detainees allege that included the reported denial of access to toothbrushes and tampons, as well as claims that guards have gave detainees used razor blades and forced a man in solitary confinement to spend 3 months without clean laundry or bedding. People treat their dogs better than how this jail treats us, a detainee named Daniel told the nonprofit. There's no respect for human life, no humanity. It is impossible for me to get the right treatment for my diabetes here. Every day, I fear for my life. At Clip C, PC stands for punishment custody, not protective custody. The GEO Group told the Daily Beast in a statement that it provides around-the-clock access to medical care, in-person and virtual legal and family visitation, general and legal library access, dietitian-approved meals and specialty diets, and recreational amenities. The organization added, "We are proud of the role our company has played for 40 years to support the law enforcement mission of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement." Erickson has been in ICE custody since he arrived at his citizenship interview after living in Mississippi for over a decade. He works as a welder and first came to America as a foreign exchange student in high school. Erickson's wife, Jennifer, told the Mississippi Free Press that he was detained because he did not submit a Form I-751, otherwise known as Petition to Remove Conditions on Residence, by a deadline in 2015, 10 years ago. The deadline came and went as the family was grappling with the fallout of her suffering a stillbirth with her first child, she said. Sarah F. Rogerson, a professional at Albany Law School in New York, told the Daily Beast that Erickson's missing form was a serious one in the naturalization process. Unfortunately, certain forms in immigration carry a lot more weight than what a reasonable person would perceive as mere paperwork, she said. Something like a missed filing deadline for Form I-751, though it seems like a harmless error, could result in determination by immigration authorities that a person has abandoned their entire application for residency and therefore no longer wishes to naturalize. It can also sometimes result in the government unilaterally terminating the individual's application for failure to file in a timely manner. But he's been going through this process for 10 goddamn years. I understand that some people don't file this because they want to quit. They don't want to be a citizen anymore. But he was showing up expecting to become a citizen. It's insane. Erickson has a court date scheduled for May 27th to determine whether he can be released on bail, according to a GoFundMe ran by Savannah. Rogerson said whether he gets out will largely depend on the judge he's assigned to. At best, Rogerson says he could be released on bail and continue pursuing citizenship. At worst, he could be placed in removal proceedings that could take years to play out. The next few days and weeks are extremely important, she said. It's a terrifying story that immigration families face every time they report to ICE officials, even when they think that their paperwork is in order, and even when the delay is not on their end, but a result of government error. I don't know. That's insane, dude. He came as a foreign exchange student from 2009 to 2010. They fell in love, dated long distance, and then eventually he moves back here, married 4 children. On April 15, 2025, we headed to Memphis for his final interview, where we were met by ICE agents, and Casper was detained for paperwork miscommunication from 2015. We were not notified of this at any point over the years, nor did it ever show up in his USCIS portal or any of our previous interviews and appointments. He has been detained and is being held in an ICE facility in Louisiana for over a month now. What could have been corrected with paperwork has resulted in a month-long detention of my husband and a devastating situation for our children and myself, as well as my high-risk pregnancy. They've raised $30,000. Casper is a loving husband, devoted father, proud landowner in the U.S., pays taxes and has a valid driver's license, social security number, and came here legally on a green card in 2013 when we were married. He is a valued, loved, and well-respected man in our community. Casper is currently building our family home with his bare hands, working full-time job as a welder, which he has done for the past 11 years, and caring for all of us and the animals on our ranch. We are doing our best to make it every day without him, but we've been encouraged by many to start up a GoFundMe for support. Your prayers are important. Damn, that's crazy. We do have an update regarding Casper's status. There will be a hearing coming on Tuesday, May 27th at 9 a.m. During this time, the judge will review Casper's case and will have the ultimate decision on whether Casper can be released on bond or not. That sounds like a wild story, right? Like, I could understand if, like, he stopped filling out the paperwork 10 years ago and then just ghosted him, right? But he's been keeping up with his portal. He's been going to his check-ins. He's made all of his appointments. Yes, he missed a piece of paperwork. I don't think anybody's disputing that. But you think at one of those meetings, at minimum, he's having yearly meetings, right? At one of those meetings, they would have said, hey, you kind of fucked up some of the paperwork. We got to get that fixed. But no, not for 10 years. That's crazy. I don't know if he's a Trump supporter or not. I saw somebody say, oh, wait. Some people are reporting that he's a Trump supporter. Still crazy. Trump supporter snatched and shackled. Damn it, hold on. Casper actually couldn't wait to see Donald Trump return as president. 6 months later, he was in chains, deposited into an Nightmare Central Louisiana ICE facility. I still think it's horrible that it happened to him, even if he is a Trump supporter. Daddy has to stay for some important paperwork, is what they told their kids. Damn. judging by his social media activity. Maybe that's where they got it from. Let's see. I have a video in Discord about him. Okay. Well, hell, his social media stuff, when the last time he posted was in 2021. He does share Jack Posobiec shit. He shares Daily Caller shit. Tucker Carlson says Alex Jones is more reliable journalist than many of the elites. Epstein is alive. He shared that. Either way, his kids shouldn't suffer like that. 10 goddamn years. I bet you he won't be voting the same when he gets out. Who knows? Who knows? They're all fucking brainwashed, but I would think that he would not vote the same when he got out, but I can't even make that call. It's not mine to make. Wild, dude. His name is, what did I say his name was? Casper Erickson. Casper with a K. Casper Erickson. It's a wild story. When I stumbled upon it, I was like, no, man, this is like clickbait or something. And they're like, no, he missed one filing of one piece of paperwork. Yes, he moved to Mississippi. Wild, dude. All right, anyways, I got other things to cover. Charlie Kirk's been getting roasted by a Cambridge student. Yeah, this guy actually does really good. There's a bunch of these clips floating around, but here's one of them. Let me make sure the audio is on first.
Can we just talk about 100 billion's worth of weapons? Because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East, where Trump has just signed enormous arms contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment.
I've seen this kid. He must be part of their debate team or something. I saw him talk to Hassan and some other people. This exact same kid.
From Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America selling weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliner 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts, but I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price rates.
See, I disagree.
So let's talk about Qatar for a second.
Okay, fine.
You mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who's the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palestine. Well, the West actually funds Hamas.
Which state?
Well, Iran funds.
No. Also, where are the Hamas leaders?
And also Qatar funds Hamas. It is a combination of international.
Qatar funds Hamas.
Have a 400 million jet with the President of the United States on it.
Hold on. First of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally and not a violation of the...
Why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library? He is.
Actually, okay, again, he sent out a statement. This is way too in the weeds. If you want to keep on going, we can.
It's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay. This is why Charlie Kirk goes to college campuses and just gets kids walking by the commons, right? And most of them are just his fans that just want to glaze him.
So under that fundamental moral principle, then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know what year he got elected?
Can we just talk about 100 billion's worth of weapons? Because you dodged my question on what was going on.
I don't know. Let's see if this channel has more of the clips. I doubt it. Oh, yeah, they do.
Charlie Kirk engages in a fiery and intense exchange with a perplexed Cambridge student. This showdown will leave you on the edge of your seat.
He said Trump would put Americans first and take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board. Billions in arms are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his failed sons are receiving. At the same time, this great president of peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot, with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
He just tries to hang on. This channel is trying to like promote him like he won. And the first comment on here with the most likes is like, Charlie actually lost this debate. I hate to say it. Charlie knew he was losing. That's why he tried to insult his opponent. God bless Charlie, but he lost. Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. It's all the culture wars for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which is red.
Can you calm down a little bit? Like,
That's exactly true. It's all the culture wars, right? What is memeable? What is clickable? It's almost like these people debate through clickbait, right? What is a woman? Oh, I guess you can't tell me. Boo. Everybody screams like stupid shit.
a little bit. Pounding the table, you're all over the place.
When honestly, that's a complex question. And the reason it's a complex question, not in biological or scientific, the reason it's a complex question is think about everything that you're attracted to, right? Guys, every guy here, think about everything that you're attracted to. The hair type and length and color, facial features, body builds, whatever, right? The perfect person. And you see them walking across the street, your dream person. Okay? And they fit that model. Whatever you're sexually attracted to, they're the perfect example, okay? Now, all of that still exists and they have a penis. You don't know that from across the street, and you 100% would say, oh my God, that's the perfect woman for me. Absolutely you would. Because unless we're doing genital checks, right? There's a group of things that we group together as women. And unless we're checking genitalia, you would be like, oh my God, that woman over there. 100% you would.
No. You want me to go piece by piece? Or would you?
Everybody would.
I think you can.
Number one, Donald Trump is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden gave
that's going well, isn't it?
Can,
it's going well.
Can you not interrupt me?
Well.
I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
You're famous for not interrupting.
Yeah, I haven't
Famous for not interrupting.
interrupted a single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually? He is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually talking to Iran and discouraging.
He's actually stepped away from that peace deal already and put it on the Pope, saying that they can be the only two people in the room, even though he was the only person that could be in the room before.
Israel to strike the interior of Iran and has stopped many other international countries to do the same. Number three, can you give him credit for ending the Indian-Pakistan war?
Both India and Pakistan have come out and said he had nothing to do with it. Trump says, I ended the India-Pakistan war. India comes out and says, no, he didn't. Pakistan comes out and says, no, he didn't. And then people are like, you're going to give him credit for ending the war?
Of them said he didn't do that.
Well, hold on.
So let's go back.
No, that's
Russia, Ukraine.
That's important.
Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you got to go deeper than that.
Charlie Kirk engages in...
Got to go deeper. Got to be deep.
The peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up. Is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even sure.
A success?
Well, again, these are ongoing negotiations, and it's a lot better than when your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went alongside our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to Istanbul and unnecessarily blew up a potential Russian peace deal, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, one of the great unnecessary wars of the modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation and police boot through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days, and he has already ended a war between two nuclear conflicts of India-Pakistan.
Well over 120 to 130 days. What a weird way to say that. He's been president for well over 120 to 130 days. Why not just say one of... That's so awkward to say it that way. Why not just say one of those for well over 100 days?
Modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation and police boot through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days, and he has already ended a war between two nuclear conflicts of India-Pakistan. He has secured our own U.S. southern border while we were being invaded by foreign powers. And thirdly, he is brokering a potential settlement with Iran that will prevent a major escalation in the Middle East. And finally, it is very difficult, but I believe they'll get...
He's trying to put back Obama's the Iran nuclear deal.
done that will finally see an end to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
I'm just going to disregard the enormous lies you just put out there about Russia and Ukraine. But do you really think leverage negotiations work if you cut off all your leverage and scream at one party in the Oval Office? Don't you think that has just emboldened Russia? Because look at the approach. Putin thinks so much of your glorious president, he can't even be asked to show up. You have elected or helped elect somebody who is at best an idiot and at worst is deeply corrupt.
Okay, again, so Trump and Putin had a 2-hour phone call today. You'll acknowledge that's a good thing. The pursuit of peace can sometimes be a winding road, and it's a lot better than sending hundreds of billions of dollars further into the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for a couple of years. President Trump wants to see a brokerage and end.
Okay, this is coming in the first video we watched because they're talking about the arms deals.
Settlement. I pray we can get it. It's very complicated because of the mess that Joe Biden left, which was an active connection.
He'll call out the U.S. sending arms to Ukraine and billions of people or millions of people or whatever dying, but he won't call out Trump selling arms to Saudi Arabia and what they're using them for.
War with a nuclear power sending American-made missiles into the interior of Russia. So President Trump has already ended a war. He's ended an invasion. He's only 130 days into this, and I believe we do not know. At this point, we are merely speculating, which I think we should not spend our time doing that because eventually one of us will be right. I believe we'll be right. I believe we'll see an end to this war.
I think that's the way. It obviously should be done. It should be peace through diplomacy, but there also always has to be that threat of strength, right? You're not going to come in weak and be the country that comes out and says, "Oh well, we're going to do this," and another country can just roll over you if they have that desire. I think you have to have the strength. You have to come from a place of strength, but use diplomacy. Here's the clip we just watched, I think.
Because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East.
We'll watch it again. Keep it.
Signed
continuity going.
Contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America selling weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliner, 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts. But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price rates.
I disagree.
Let's talk about Qatar for a second.
Okay, fine.
You mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who's the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palace state. Well, the West actually funds Hamas.
Which state?
Well, Iran funds.
No.
Also,
where are the Hamas leaders?
And also Qatar funds Hamas. It is a combination of
international relief organizations. Is this a state which have a 400 million jet with the President of the United States?
Well, hold on. First of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally and not a violation of.
Then why is he trying to transfer it to his personal libraries? He is.
Actually, okay, again, he sent out
lying.
This is way too in the weeds. If you want to keep on going, we can.
It's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so under that fundamental moral principle, then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know what year he got elected?
Can we just talk about 100?
And the last one
unfolds between Charlie Kirk and this visibly anxious Cambridge student. What happens next is shocking.
Visibly anxious.
Less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know what year he got elected. You understand the contrast here?
What about him again? I'm not a defender of Biden.
No, I'm not saying that. President Trump is far better.
You have to defend the person you spend millions.
I will defend every day of someone who ends an invasion.
That's all you do.
Who brings down the price of oil, who is revitalizing the American economy, who is brokering peace, who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table and bringing Russia to the table. Someone who does not want armed conflicts. Powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly.
What are you in a fantasy world of your own creation? So it's quite hard to engage
that, but then disprove it.
But let's check on how Trump is doing in terms of diplomacy. Look. With the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision to tell the Israelis you wanted Trump Gaza to agree for Israel to invade the Gaza Strip and to continue to murder thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war?
There we go.
America's interest is that in humanity.
Well, first of all,
he tries to get you in this gotcha too, asking him questions about other conflicts going on around the world. Like the kid wouldn't know about it. Obviously, he's well versed. This is a dumb move.
You should know something about Trump. There's something you realize with Trump over the last 10 years. He is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me ask you, in the conflict.
But if that's true, and other countries just realize, oh, he's just lying. He just says stupid shit online. How can anybody trust us or expect us to keep what we say? Right? If he's just going on social media just to say crazy things because that's what he does. He just says crazy things. How would our allies trust us? And how will our enemies know where our hard lines are? Right? The lines we draw in the sand. Well, that's just Trump. He just says crazy shit.
Conflict of Israel versus Hamas. Who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil. But I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children. But like the futile. There is no justification, Mr. Kerr. invading hospitals, bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West.
You've made that point, but
That's not a point, it's a moral truth, isn't it?
yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish, I let you talk. Israel, at its whole...
So if you missed his point there, is the guy's like, hey, we shouldn't be killing babies, we shouldn't be killing kids, we shouldn't be attacking hospitals. His point there is, if you pick a fight with Israel, you should just expect this. You should expect them to kill fucking kids. You should expect them to attack hospitals. You should expect them to target innocent civilians. Like, what a fucking stupid point.
200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction.
Expect a firestorm. Expect toddlers to be assassinated.
I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War.
A fierce struggle unfolds.
Please have the last clip. I bet you they don't. Hold on. I might have it. I might have grabbed it. He tries to get him on these like gotchas, like he won't know about this, he won't know about that kind of deal. If we've got it. Let's just do this. It's at the end of their debate. We'll grab it. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. I think it's... Hopefully he includes it. I don't really want to give him the views, to be honest with you. Fuck it.
If you care about faith,
fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for.
We'll skip ahead because we've seen most of it.
I pray we can get it. It's very into war. He's ended it. He'll be right. And I believe we'll see an end to this war.
And we just talk about 100 billions worth of weapons because you dodge massive investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from
Hamas and the evils of Hamas?
personally? I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government, and under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally, and not a violation of.
Why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library?
Oh, he's peddling this as a win.
Actually, okay, again, he sent out this is way too in the weeds. You want to keep on going it? We can. He actually,
it's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so
the guy walks off, does a mic drop and walks off.
Under that fundamental moral principle, then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president who is far better to bring peace, who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table?
This is about where we're at.
Someone who does not want armed conflicts with the greatest powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly.
You are living in a fantasy world of your own creation, so it's quite hard to engage
that,
with.
But
let's check on how Trump is doing in terms of diplomacy. Look, with the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision to tell the Israelis you wanted Trump Gaza to agree for Israel to invade the Gaza Strip and to continue to murder thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war? Is that in America's interest? Is that in humanity's
Well, first of all, you should know something about Trump. There's something, if you realize with Trump over the last 10 years, he is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification. There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children. Well,
Expect a firestorm, buddy.
There is no justification, Mr. President, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West.
You've made that point, but
that's not a point. It's a moral truth, isn't it?
Yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of
the only big claps he gets is when he's cocksucking for Israel. I don't know. Dude, Israel does so much shady shit. They probably have people planted there that they're paying to clap in the background. It's insane.
Calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200-plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gaza child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they're operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war, and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it, and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas.
Do you think civilian casualties with the military operation and the technology we had in World War II are held to the same standards as modern day civilian casualties with the technology and operations we do nowadays? You think those are held even? Those are the same, right? Do you think the tactics we used in 1942 and the tactics we use in 2025 should be held to the same standard of civilian casualties?
Us, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
I'm no defender of the terrible pogrom that was launched against Jews on that day. But the justification for the death of innocents cannot be an infinite cycle of bloodlust. It cannot be killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians with a war with no end in sight, people who are not complicit in those atrocities. It cannot be bombing hospitals which children use. It cannot be bombing hospitals in which cancer patients are dying and starving in there. The deaths that have been inflicted, nobody knows the true toll, but somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people lie dead under the rubble. And what is left for Gaza except for to continue to suffer under Hamas? Because it turns out Netanyahu's political strategy has not worked. It has entrenched Hamas within the territories. To be a Christian, I would have thought, Mr. Kirk, would never have involved suggesting that the price for an atrocity must be an infinite cycle of bloodlust, that innocent people and the young population must be killed to avenge some kind of providential price. How can you call yourself a Christian? Well, you just did.
I want to make sure we get our moral clarity straight before we proceed. No one likes what's happening in Gaza. No one with a heart or a soul or a mind likes when kids die. But you must understand who started the conflict so that you can end it correctly. And until Hamas brokers an unconditional surrender, of which they are unwilling to do, they could release the hostages and drop their weapons and their lives would be spared. Instead, they are using children of Gaza as cannon fodder, financed by the Iranian mullahs and dragging the entire world into this conflict. So I don't even know what we're debating at this point other than I believe that Israel was unconditionally attacked on October 7th. They're responding in kind. And I would just ask you a very simple moral question. How should Israel have
They are responding in kind.
responded?
Not with the blanket carpet bombing of the city, not with bombing hospitals. Of course, some kind of military operation might be necessary, but not murder on this scale. There is no justification for what is happening with the enormous death toll that is being produced. I really cannot see how you come here and you have the gall to lecture us on Christian morality and then sit here and justify the murder of thousands of civilians. Is it working? Is Hamas dismantled?
I've never said that.
You just did.
Well, no,
this is your whole
in war,
thing.
these are called casualties of a war.
We're going to
okay?
stop bringing this
Again,
I'm not justifying it. They're just casualties of war. I'm not justifying it. They're just casualties of war. It happens.
I'm not going to justify every military maneuver of a 100,000 person army. Instead, what I will do is I'll be clear that there is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Isn't that the morality of a child?
Well,
There's a good guy and there's a bad guy. So in Charlie Kirk's eyes, no matter what happens from Israel, they're justified in it because they were attacked on October 7th.
well, hold on. It's interesting you say that. Because a child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
I will be glad that I will not have been somebody who has...
A child that would say that Israel is good and Hamas is bad has been brainwashed. A child shouldn't know what's going on. You know what I mean? A child shouldn't know the intricacies of a fucking war in the Middle East.
defended the genocide of the Palestinian people, and I think you will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with...
Interesting. I want to close on this. So can you tell me what African country is currently ongoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan.
Here it is. Here it is. So Charlie Kirk, what he's trying to do right now is say, oh, you're so laser focused on the enemies of Israel, but you don't know what's going on you don't know what's going on in Asia? You don't know what's going on in Africa? So this is a gotcha, right? So what Charlie Kirk is hoping is that this redheaded kid would be like, what? No, I don't know anything going on in Africa. No, I don't know. But he knows every goddamn thing because he's better educated than Charlie Kirk could ever dream of being. So watch this gotcha that just falls flat on its fucking face.
You will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with...
Interesting. I want to close on this. So can you tell me what...
I want to close on this, by the way, right? He's trying to end right here because they already told him the time was close to up or was going to be up. And he says, I want to end on this. Listen.
Countries currently ongoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan because I'm not an idiot.
How about what Southeast Asian country has an ethnic cleansing?
Even the judge back here, or the timekeeper or whatever, is trying not to laugh. Look at her biting her thumb.
You tell me what African country is currently ongoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan because I'm not an idiot.
How about what Southeast Asian country has an ethnic cleansing going on right now?
Myanmar.
Good. And you have strong opinions on both sides?
So Charlie falls on his face, thinking he won't know about Sudan and won't know about Myanmar, right? And then he's like, oh, well, good. So I guess you have strong opinions on both?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan because I'm not an idiot.
I love fucking Jesse Wells from TikTok.
How about what Southeast Asian country has an ethnic cleansing going on right now?
Myanmar.
Good. And you have strong opinions on both sides?
Unlike you, I take an effort to be informed about foreign policy and to come to conclusions. You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt, as selling the country out to the lowest bidder, and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference,
I think you will have to reckon with that.
Difference
Mr. Kirk.
is when.
And the mic drop. And the mic drop, bro. He didn't think he'd know about other, because that's what they do, right? That's what they do. They say, "Oh, they're so mad only because it's Israel. If it wasn't Israel, they ignore what's going on in Sudan. They ignore what's going on in Myanmar because they're not fighting Israel, because they're paid by the fucking PACs that AFPAC, right?
Deep down love.
The difference.
You will have to reckon with that.
Destroyed him on the last question. Just got to put his mic down, put his head down. Smoked. And the guy walks off and gets a standing ovation. I don't know how Charlie Kirk is spinning this, but I'm sure he's spinning this as a win. By the way, because the title, Charlie takes down extremely bouncy Cambridge student. Takes down. He got a walk-off fucking standing ovation, dude. Takes down extremely bouncy Cambridge student. Quite the takedown.
The difference is when we get our way, we'll still have a country, and your country will be a third world hellhole.
Oh. We get our way, we'll still have a country, but your country is going to be a third world hellhole. That's how he gets it. That was the takedown. The takedown. Got him. Let's see how he's spinning it. Let's watch this intro. I don't know if he does an intro before the debate starts or not, but no, it doesn't seem like it.
And the final question that we've got time for.
Ooh, your country's going to be destroyed, and we've got America. We've got America. Jesus Christ. The dude did very well, right? Especially with the walk-off, the standing ovation. Charlie just left there, standing there looking like a fucking idiot. Pretty good job. Let's go grab this because someone shared it in Discord. Rob shared it in Discord. This was the MAGA guy, I guess. The Dutch MAGA guy.
Yet another case of I thought you were going after them and not me. This is Casper Eriksson and his wife, Savannah. Casper immigrated here back in 2013. He came from Denmark. He met Savannah, they fell in love, and they currently have 4 children and 1 on the way. Casper immigrated here back in 2013, found work immediately as a welder, and has been working a steady job ever since. He's not a criminal. He's been attending all of his immigration appointments, and back in September of 2024, he finally got word that his naturalization application was in review. He had hope that soon he would become an American citizen. In April, he got a call stating that he needed...
Dude, that is sad for anybody. Like, I understand he's a MAGA guy or whatever. It seems like he's right-wing from his Twitter profile. But imagine going to think that you're getting your citizenship. They were probably dressed up, ready to take pictures, to celebrate, to go out to eat, and getting arrested at that meeting.
To come to the local immigration office in Memphis, Tennessee, and he was supposed to be interviewed in regards to his naturalization application, and when he arrived, ICE was waiting for him. They detained him and sent him to that prison over there in Louisiana, and that's where he's been ever since. He hasn't seen an attorney. He hasn't gotten an appointment to get information further regarding his immigration status. He has no idea what is going on. Savannah is a stay-at-home mom, and Casper was the one bringing home the bacon. So Savannah was homeschooling the kids, and now she's left to try to figure it out all on her own. Taking care of the kids, trying to figure out how she's going to pay those bills, pay the mortgage, and everything else that they need financially. Yeah, I believe Savannah has a GoFundMe.
Charlie, I think if we're going after UK now, Charlie Kirk has a stance that immigration is destroying England, the UK, and it's going to be immigrant hellhole where there's going to be bombings and stabbings and everybody's going to die and there won't be any white people left kind of deal.
Why? Because Casper and Savannah are Trump supporters. Before you feel sad about their situation, here are some of the screenshots that are floating around on what Casper found so intriguing out there on social media that he had to retweet, repost, however you do it on whatever platform. Back in 2021, this is what Casper reposted.
Impeach Biden, impeach Harris, expel Pelosi, save America.
Impeach Biden.
That's a retweet, right? From Graham Allen.
Harris, expel Pelosi, save America. Back in October of 2021, Casper.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. We all know that was derogatory towards President Joe Biden. Again, in October of 2021, Casper.
How to summarize a failed presidency in 7 words or less. Unpopular Biden hits trail as agenda stalls.
Reposted how to summarize a failed presidency in 7 words or less. And he's talking about the lower third message on this Fox News video. And you can see everybody wearing masks because this was during the height of COVID. Yeah, failed presidency. Casper wanted to repost that message. Hey, Casper and Savannah. When
Dude, you know, if he's a Trump supporter, he 100% thought he was safe. White European immigrants, been here 10 years, on the verge of getting naturalization approved. You know he thought he was safe.
Joe Biden was president, you were free, living your life, living the American dream, on the pathway to natural citizenship. And now that your fave is in the White House, you, Casper, are sitting in a jail in Louisiana.
I saw a video of some of the Venezuelans, which is what they call them, the Venezuelans that helped Trump in Florida. Some of the Venezuelans very upset that Trump ended the stay that was in place for all the Venezuelans that were here.
And don't know what's going to happen to you, your wife, or your kids. Back in September of 2021, Casper reposted, imagine thinking Biden won legitimately, with the clown emoji. Back in April of 2021, Casper retweeted this MAGA troll right here with a picture of Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, and it says, 2 of America's greatest leaders having dinner together at Mar-a-Lago last night. Somebody out there in that Louisiana prison, please ask Casper, how does he feel about Donald Trump being a great president now? Again, October of 2021, Casper retweeted or reposted
Nothing about this administration is real. Kamala Harris gets a COVID booster shot on the fake White House set. I can't believe this was even a thing. The fake White House set.
About this administration is real. And he captions that with a picture of Kamala Harris wearing a mask and getting her COVID booster shot. Oh, Casper. The wool was pulled over your eyes, and now you're paying the price for it. In January 2021, Casper reposted or retweeted, I think the Democratic Party is the party of Satan. Oh, poor Casper. It looks like to me, he's right where he should be. I have no sympathy for these people. They went into the voting booth and they voted for this man to hurt other people, not realizing that their status here in this country was the same as the people that they went into the voting booth to hurt. Donald Trump does not care about you. Donald Trump cares about the millionaires and billionaires. Casper and Savannah were a special team. Savannah was the citizen, so she was the one that went into the voting booth to vote for Donald Trump. Casper was out there on social media along with all of the other MAGA nuts, tearing other marginalized communities down, talking trash about the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, currently, while he's sitting in a prison, it's the Democratic Party that is fighting for his right to stay in this country. Who's the Satan now? Casper. Somebody over there in that Louisiana prison, ask him, who is the Satan now? I'll see y'all later.
You guys remember that the farmer we covered that was like he voted for Trump and then Trump froze the funding or whatever, and he was like upset that he might lose his farm, blah, blah, blah. And then he got mad because people were like, thoughts and tariffs, you voted for this kind of deal. That motherfucker had the audacity to, after he gets his money, right? Because it was frozen and then something happened and people went to bat and a bunch of people negotiated and finally they unfroze the money. That motherfucker had the audacity to make a goddamn video on TikTok and start calling people out for wanting student loan relief. Saying, not my tax money. You're the one who went to school. You're the one who signed the loans. You're the one who got this degree and can't get a job with it. That motherfucker was directly taking government handout. He says he wasn't because he had to pay for the stuff and then the government reimbursed him. But what the fuck else do you call that? Right? They paid for the stuff and now they're asking the government to reimburse them. That's 1,000%. And there's this really good guy. His name is Will Westmoreland, I think. Let's go find him on TikTok. He has a podcast called The Back 40. He's another farmer, an older farmer. Will Westmoreland, there it was. He has a podcast called The Back 40, and he reached out to this guy, and he's like, look, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, say this. I'm not going to say that. I just want to talk to you as an older farmer who's been around, who's kind of seen through how the Republican Party tries to play us. But really, it seems like most of the time, the Democrats are the ones who actually have our back, right? Especially farmers. Southern Democrat used to be a huge fucking thing, okay? And they have flipped the South into thinking that we've always been these staunch Republicans against this and against that. It's just wild. Anyways, he does this video without naming names. This is Will, by the way, Westmoreland. He does have a podcast called The Back 40. He does a good synopsis of the whole situation without naming names. All right, he's going to talk about an older farmer and a younger farmer. Just know when he's talking about the younger farmer, he's talking about this asshole.
Also, everybody says in the comments, Project 2025, didn't you read that? That's his platform.
Hey, Skyler.
Okay, he's talking about that guy, Skyler Holden. So here's a full synopsis of how it all went down.
Once upon a time on the internet, there was a young farmer who faced an uncertain future. He had taken advantage of a program designed to help him improve his farming operations, a program offered by a Democratic president, I might add, for the purposes of the story, you see. He spent the money to build new fence, distribute water sources, and plant warm weather grasses, and lo and behold, a new Republican president came along and said, not so fast, young man. We need that money to give a $4 trillion tax break to billionaires.
They've also used that, the from Southern Democrat to Republican. They use religion to do a lot of that, by the way. Like, there are people saying, how can you be a Democrat and you can't be a Democrat and a Christian? Really? Because Jesus is like a fucking hippie, dude. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but whatever. Anyways, back to this story, the two farmers.
Lo and behold, a new Republican president came along and said, not so fast, young man. We need that money to give a $4 trillion tax break to billionaires. And without a thank you, a handshake, or even a nicely written apology, the young farmer was left out in the cold wondering aloud if his farm would survive. Now, the rest of the internet kingdom felt very little pity for the young farmer. After all, the young farmer had voted for the president who had dealt him such an unfair hand. You're getting what you deserve, they said. You effed around and now you're finding out, they said. I hope you lose your farm, some of them said. Even the people who voted for the same president had unkind words for the young farmer. Keep your mouth shut, boy. You're making us all look bad, they said. Hush up. You're just a hobby farmer, they said. Well, the young farmer was confused, and rightly so. How could people say such horrible things? I could lose my farm.
He was basically getting attacked by both sides, right? Maybe rightfully so, from one side saying you voted for this, but the other side were saying, keep your mouth shut. Don't talk bad about my president. Don't put this out. He'll fix it. Just shut up. Stop your whining. Then they got on him because he works a day job, a union day job, and then farms in the evening. And they started calling him a hobby farmer, saying he wasn't a real farmer and shit. He was getting attacked by both sides. One more deserved than others, I think.
He was angry, confused, and feeling a little lost. Now, at the same time, there was an older farmer in southwest Missouri with arthritis, a bad liver, and a soft spot in his heart for young people who want a farm, sitting on his back porch, watching all of this drama unfold. And finally, against his better judgment, he got involved. If you're willing to listen, young farmer, I'll tell you a little story, he said. I'll explain how all of this happened. I don't want to see you lose your farm. I know you worked hard for everything you've got. The older farmer tried to speak to him with understanding and respect. There's a reason for all of this, the old farmer said. We don't respect each other anymore. Talk radio and biased news sources have created an environment where rather than seeking the truth and making decisions that benefit all of us in rural America, we now focus on owning the libs and using people's God-given differences as clubs to beat each other with. Rather than really considering the ramifications of policies on our brothers and sisters in rural America, we just vote for the cult of personality. If our guy says it, then we believe it, and we let the chips fall where they may. Something about the older farmer's words struck a chord across America. Even people who disagreed with what the older farmer said appreciated the way that he said it. Now, don't misunderstand. There were plenty of people who voted the same way the older farmer did, who let him know he was just wasting his time, and they weren't afraid to tell him that. He was wasting his time explaining anything to the young farmer. They even made videos about it. They never mentioned the older farmer by name, but this wasn't the older farmer's first rodeo. He knew at whom their ire was directed. Now, the older farmer even invited the younger farmer into his internet home. He asked him about his story, he talked to him about farming and ranching, and he asked the young farmer his thoughts about the new president and what he had done. And much to the older farmer's surprise, the younger farmer said he thought the new president should be impeached, not only because he broke his word to farmers and ranchers across the country, but because he was ignoring the courts and trying to take birthright citizenship away from people who were born here. This impressed the older farmer. This young farmer can learn. Maybe there is hope. The older farmer was so optimistic that he even asked the top dog in his own political party to have a word with the young farmer, and he did. While the young farmer's own people were telling him to sit down and shut up, the party that he voted against sat down with him and listened to him.
So Will, who declares like he's involved in politics, right? He got the head of the state's Democratic Party to speak personally on behalf of the Democratic Party to Schuyler, and they started petitioning the government to release the money for the farmers. The Democratic Party personally reached out to Schuyler and helped him get his money unlocked.
His concerns. They even took his concerns to the halls of Congress to make his case. And on the privacy of that call with nobody else listening, the younger farmer thanked the older farmer. He thanked the leader of the other party, and they all parted ways on good terms. But then something predictable happened. The new president, his angry supporters from rural America, began speaking out. And the old farmer saw the young farmer and the attention he was getting, and do you know what the new president did? He made sure that the young farmer and all of his supporters hollering the loudest on social media got their checks. And like a mosquito in a West Texas dust storm, the young farmer simply blew away. The old farmer watched as the young farmer went back to his old ways. He watched the young farmer belittle folks who had been victims of bad student loan contracts when he himself had just been made the victim of a bad faith contract himself.
That was 100% what happened. He was part of a predatory bad faith contract, just like the people who signed these contracts not understand them to go to school.
He watched the young farmer speak out against the same political leaders who lended him an ear and fought for his cause when his own political party wouldn't. He watched the young farmer make the case that everything in rural America was fine because cattle prices were high and he was dancing in high cotton. The old farmer just smiled and shook his head. I wonder, the old farmer asked his sons, if he knows that there are thousands of farmers and ranchers across the country who still haven't received their money and were told just a couple of weeks ago that they were never going to get it. I wonder if he knows that
Hold on, I want to see that.
Could drop as demand of farmers and ranchers across the country who still haven't received their money and were told.
Shock to the system. Farmers hit by Trump's tariffs and cuts, so they need another bailout.
Just a couple of weeks ago that they were never going to get it. I wonder if he knows that beef prices could drop as demand falls when
Fed cattle prices fall as heifer slaughter surges and China export concerns grow.
China stops buying that $1.6 billion in American beef. I wonder if he knows that the first food product Americans stop buying when unemployment climbs and GDP drops is beef. I wonder if he knows that there's an election coming up in Brazil and the new president has threatened to let Brazil dump beef on the American market in order to get his candidate elected down there. I wonder if he knows feed prices have gone up, not because of a...
That's true. So, Trump has basically said if the candidate that he wants wins in Brazil, that they're going to import a ton of beef here and probably destroy our own fucking market.
Shortage of row crops, but because the inputs for feed producers have gone up. The price of fertilizer, machinery, and labor. I wonder if he knows that as the row crop industry fails, feed prices can still climb because of these input costs. I wonder if he knows that ag economists say the number one reason for high feed costs is the increased fertilizer inputs caused by the tariffs that the new president passed and the fear that drought programs are being cut. I wonder if he knows our calf crop broke records and that the ride could be over for beef raisers in a couple of years. I wonder, thought the older farmer. But in his older farmer heart, he knew. He got up every day and did his chores, arthritis and all. He still got in his truck with 200,000 miles on it and drove all over the country talking to good rural people about saving our schools, saving our rural hospitals, and voting for politicians who believe that fighting for rural America doesn't mean using our differences as a weapon against us. And the older farmer also remembered that for every young farmer, there are 5 who do care about what happens to their friends and neighbors around them. They care about those who didn't get their checks, those who have lost their doctor, those who have to drive for 3 hours to get their chemotherapy, those whose schools have closed, those who have to ride a bus for 3 hours to get to the schools that are still open. And as the old farmer crossed the Missouri River at midnight one night on his way back from one of these speeches and slowed down for a deer that was out for an evening stroll, he just remembered that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always the right thing to do.
He does a good job explaining it without naming names, right? He doesn't want to get in a pissing match. But can you believe that motherfucker came out and started calling out student loans after taking his government handout, getting it paid, and then Skylar comes out and makes videos about student loans? Like, what the fuck, dude? You got yours.
I believe her name.
The biggest question for me is, would you still be open if you weren't affected? Because that's why I vote the way I do, not to self-preserve, but for the greater good of everyone.
It was Aquisha, and if I butchered that, I apologize. But she says the biggest question for me is, would you still be open if you weren't affected? Because that's why I vote the way I do, not to self-preserve, but for the greater good of everyone. A couple hours ago, I had a journalist from the New York Times that had...
No, he votes to protect himself. He votes to protect himself. That's the answer.
I need to get some ground on this because I'm not the only one this is affecting. So there are other farmers in the comments saying that 3 to 4 years ago, they were crying because they couldn't afford their student loans.
3 to 4 weeks ago, you were crying.
Crying because they couldn't afford their student loans.
The same people who claim to be experts on tariffs, on the economy, and on finances are the same people that 3 to 4 years ago, they were crying because they couldn't afford their student loans. It's kind of strange, because if you're an expert in finance and you got college educated on finance, wouldn't you think you could take care of your finances in your own house? But the same people want to tell you and they want to tell me how to handle my finances. And those same people that aren't good at making decisions and they aren't good at their finances think that they have a better way of running the country. The way we're going right now in the United States is not the way. There's no industry in the United States anymore. It's all sent out overseas for cheaper labor, and then products are brought back into here. And there are poor people because of it. There are no good jobs out there anymore. The jobs that are out there are few and far between, and there's people struggling. This is not the way. The way we have been doing it for the last 30 years does not work. Instead of taxing the shit out of the people who made it in this country, why not bring the jobs back to America and give everybody the American dream opportunity that we had 30, 40 years ago before all the industry left?
He's got it, don't he? They can't even afford their student loans. Why should they be allowed to talk? You're losing the farm. Why should you be fucking allowed to talk? A few charts you should see this morning to understand the depravity of this budget bill that's passed in the House. House Republican plan would take health care and food assistance away from people to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. Plan would cut health coverage by at least $800 billion and SNAP by roughly $300 billion, while giving the wealthy $1.1 trillion in tax cuts. How ironic is it that the $800 billion cuts to Medicaid and the $300 billion cuts to SNAP add up to the $1.1 trillion in tax cuts for people making over $500,000. And people are still claiming that's not what it is. No, that's not what they're just saying, you know, there should be better requirements for getting food. Food stamps are already hard to fucking get, dude. Already hard to get. Not to mention this one. Distribution of Trump's proposed tax cuts in 2026 in the United States. Share of tax cuts by income group. The poorest 20%, 1%. The second 20%, which is 28 to 55,000, 4%. Middle, 55,000 and 94,000, 10%. The fourth 20%, 94,000 to 158,000, 17%. And then 68% of the tax cuts go to the richest 1%, the next 4%, and the next 15%. So this is the top 20% of earners get 68% of the distribution of the tax cuts. I think a lot of people like to believe that if they work hard enough, that they'll soon be in one of these top two boxes, right? They're hooked on this mentality that you just work your fucking face off and suddenly you're like making $700,000 to $1.2 million a year. But instead, they're basically going to be stuck in these boxes and defending these boxes. What about this one? Here's a good one.
The UAE.
Mr. Secretary, this is a clear conflict of interest, and anyone with any common sense can see that. The president is personally benefiting from billions.
Rubio has no fucking shame left. He won't answer this goddamn questions.
Of dollars of deals, and he doesn't care at all about the people of Sudan who are experiencing famine and genocide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to turn to the war in Sudan. This is, as you know, the world's largest displacement and humanitarian crisis. 500,000 people are facing famine. I saw firsthand the suffering when I visited Sudanese refugees in Chad. Earlier this year, and again yesterday, you reiterated that the Rapid Support Forces, a militia, is committing a genocide in Sudan. Is that correct?
We're very concerned about what both sides are doing, frankly, but the RSF in particular.
Correct. I agree with that. You also said as part of that, that all of our engagement with the UAE, we need to raise the fact that they are openly supporting an entity that is carrying out a genocide. And yet, President Trump continues to arm the UAE. In fact, he just blew through Ranking Member Meek's congressional hold on over $1 billion in arms sales, ignoring this committee.
Blew through a congressional hold on arms sales.
That
just ignored
our engagement with the UAE, we need to raise the fact that they are openly supporting an entity that is carrying out a genocide. And yet, President Trump continues to arm the UAE. In fact, he just blew through Ranking Member Meek's congressional hold on over $1 billion in arms sales, ignoring this committee's longstanding role as an independent check on major arms sales. And we can have a policy debate here about the merits of continuing to arm the UAE or not, despite this genocide. I had that same conversation with Secretary Blinken. But actually, I want to talk about the events that led up to that decision. So on April 30th, the Trump Organization, which Donald Trump still owns, unveiled plans to build an 80-story Trump Tower in Dubai. Then on May 1st, Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, secured a $2 billion deal with an Emirati company with deep ties to the government. And only 11 days later, on May 12th, your department notified our committee that it would ignore Ranking Member Meek's holds on UAE arms sales. Secretary Rubio, we have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government. Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. There are members.
So the question is, billions of dollars for the hotel, billions of dollars for crypto, then suddenly the deal comes. Do you think that's weird that he's doing billions of dollars of personal business with this country, and then 11 days later he approves an arms deal that bypassed what we had in place? That was a hold. You cannot go above this much in arms deals. I think any president has to deal with the UAE. Yes, but that wasn't the question.
To the government. And only 11 days later, on May 12th, your department notified our committee that it would ignore Ranking Member Meek's holds on UAE arms sales. Secretary Rubio, we have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government.
So his personal companies are profiting billions of dollars from the UAE, and he's also selling them weapons as the person representing the United States against a hold that Congress has in place.
Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
Is that a conflict of interest? I think any president has to deal with this country.
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. They're a member.
That's not my question. We can have a policy debate about how we should engage with the UAE.
They're making claims about corruption, and I'm answering that any president in the United States, I don't care who the president is, would have to deal with UAE. They're a member of the Abraham Accords, number one. They've been incredibly cooperative on a bunch of other issues. We don't agree with them on 100%. We have concerns about some of the things they do, but this is called the balancing of foreign policy.
Secretary
It is in our
Rubio,
national interest to have a good relationship with the UAE, despite the fact that there are things we do we don't like.
Secretary Rubio, I don't disagree with you. I just visited the UAE a couple weeks ago and had these very same conversations there, but I don't think this is a complicated question. President Trump is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who is enabling a genocide. Policy aside, are you really saying you don't think this is a conflict of interest?
No, you're making claims.
You don't think this is a conflict of interest? Billions of dollars in personal profit while selling billions of dollars of weapons to the country as the representative of the United States.
His family owns a business, and they can conduct business anywhere in the world they want. The president's never once raised business deals in UAE when talking about it. Any president would have to have a relationship with the UAE.
So because he doesn't say in the arms negotiation, because he doesn't say, because you paid me $2 billion for my crypto, I'm going to sell you these weapons, then he's never raised it. So what? I don't see the problem here.
Policy aside, are you really saying you don't think this is a conflict of interest?
No, you're making claims. The president's family owns a business, and they can conduct business anywhere in the world they want. The president's never once raised business deals in UAE when talking about it. Any president would have to have a relationship with the UAE.
Secretary Rubio, that's just silly.
He did it. He supposedly did it last time he went in, right? He was no longer associated with his business. His kids this time he's just like, fuck it. What can they do to me?
One too.
President Trump has retained his ownership of these companies, and I have an image right here from World Liberty Financial.
Look at the fucking homepage of the website.
President Trump is.
Look at the homepage of the website. He's trying to say, oh well, he's a separate person when he's the president versus the business he owns. Look at the home page of his crypto websites.
Is not the face of the brand of this.
Shape a new era of finance. Be defiance.
Company on top from benefiting from them, and it literally says on the website that Mr. Trump and his family members own a 60% stake in this company. That's silly. So we can talk about the policy merits. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you believe it's a conflict of interest to have a president personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who's enabling a genocide?
I don't accept the premise of your question. I think this has nothing to do with personally benefiting from anything. This has to do with the fact that in order to conduct foreign policy in the Middle East, you're going to have to deal with the UAE.
Mr. Secretary, this is a clear conflict of interest, and anyone with any common sense can see that. The president is personally benefiting from billions of dollars of deals, and he doesn't care at all about the people of Sudan who are experiencing famine and genocide. It's shocking to me that you can't admit that. It's clear that you seem more concerned about staying in Trump's good graces than sticking up for human rights and American values that you once were a champion for. With that, I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to Representative Olszewski.
By the way, Trump and friends have been pretending that his tax cuts are not going to add to the deficit. In fact, he said he's going to reduce the deficit, and that'll be done through, they can't really name the reasons, but like Doge and fraud, waste, and abuse, and making a bunch of money up somewhere, and all the deals he's making, or something like that. They have basically said they are not going to be adding to the deficit. Does Congress actually believe that? I've heard members of Congress repeat it, but do they actually believe it?
When the White House says this will not raise the deficit, what do you say to them? Nobody says that. The White House said that. Who is saying? The White House said that.
Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit.
I mean, over here. The people in favor
to the deficit.
This bill does not add to the deficit.
I mean,
the deficit.
This bill does not add to the deficit.
I mean,
this bill does not add to the deficit.
I mean,
This bill does not add to the deficit.
I mean, over here, the people in favor of this bill say that under the policies of this bill, we're going to add $20 trillion to debt over the next 10 years, which is $3.5 to $5 trillion more than would have been added otherwise. And that's just a fact.
So they're not.
I mean, that's under rosy assumptions.
Yeah, they're saying it's deficit neutral.
No, that's a joke.
They're literally standing in the White House, talking to the press pool, saying this does not add to the deficit. It's insane, dude. It's insane.
Just a quick follow-up. Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit. In fact, according to the Council of Economic Advisors, this bill will save $1.6 trillion. And the president absolutely understands and hears the concerns of fiscal conservatives and of Americans who want to get our fiscal house in order. That's what the intention of this bill is. There's $1.6 trillion worth of savings in this bill. That's the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed Capitol Hill in our nation's history. The next bill that even comes close was $800 billion. That's less than half of the savings that we see in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so the goal of this bill is to produce economic growth, to cut taxes, and to get our fiscal house in order. And this is the right step in the right direction towards doing that.
Just a quick follow-up.
They're just okay with lying.
The president
that's it.
With this bill adding to the deficit?
Everybody knows. Every example, every scenario that plays out, everybody knows this is adding trillions to the deficit.
This bill does not add to the deficit. In fact, according to the Council of Economic Advisors, this bill will save $1.6 trillion. And the president absolutely understands and hears the concerns of fiscal conservatives and of Americans who want to get our fiscal house in order. That's what the intention of this bill is. There's $1.6 trillion worth of savings in this bill. That's the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed Capitol Hill in our nation's history. The next bill that even comes close was $800 billion. That's less than half of the savings that we see in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so the goal of this bill is to produce economic growth, to cut taxes, and to get our fiscal house in order. And this is the right step in the right direction towards doing that.
Just a quick follow-up.
It's disgusting what they'll lie about, what they'll do, what they'll say, what they'll fucking just outright lie about. All right, guys, I got more stuff to show, but I'm going to end early. I'm not feeling too great. I got to feeling kind of sick towards the end. Maybe it's all this Trump talk. I don't know. I'm not feeling great. I'm gonna wrap up early tonight and go get some rest. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Sorry about that. I don't know. I just got really flush and my stomach hurts. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Support the show if you want to at coldbeer.fund. I'll be back tomorrow unless something else changes. I'm going to go get some medicine and some rest, I think. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you on the next one. It was sudden. I don't know. Weird.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens.
It's like my stomach started cramping, and I got kind of flush all of a sudden. I don't know.
To call out the people.
Drink some chocolate milk. I'll try it.
My name and tell them.
So that's what Mariah does for everything.
And telling the rest of the world, you don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Legend. Remember where we parked.
Okay, Scott. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in the best. You know that stage is set.
Change your socks and drink some water.
Ain't seen none yet. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in the best. You know that stage.
Take a salt tablet.
Buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen.
Wow. Low blow, Jilly. Huh? You look like a pale piece of shit, Will. Yeah, thanks.
All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping Trump's cock and begging for a throat to pot. Swinging hammers like four in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go chill for a little bit. Thank you guys for joining us.
It's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know.
I need to stand up and move around so my stomach's not cramping. Have a good night.
Ain't seen nothing yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped them to my shoes and then I
Remember where we parked.
found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and
I'm just messing with you, Julie's mom.
Whoa, wait. Stop.
It's a joke.
What? I'll get my files. Wait.